Thanks for tuning in to another ClubPF Masterclass. This is a topic that I have a lot of passion about. I was just telling Jackie, she and I were talking right before the recording. I love building and executing integrated revenue campaigns. And hopefully this is going to be a nice primer guide to help you do the same. For people who've joined live, ask me questions throughout. I can see the chat and the Q&A. Thanks for tuning in live. And if you have questions about this as you're listening to the recording, just drop them in one of the Slack channels or DM me directly, and we can go deep into this topic. A little history of integrated revenue campaigns. I started to really use them and get dangerous with them, probably my Drift days. We didn't quite do them at HubSpot, ironically. HubSpot had a very different motion, and it was very lead gen focused, as you can imagine, right? It was inbound marketing. It was a lot of inbound, a lot of leads. They didn't really have a strong account-based motion. And I know they started to stand one up recently, but I got my teeth, I stuck my teeth into this when I was at Drift. And ever since then, I've been a huge fan of it. So today we're going to talk about why you should be using integrated revenue campaigns. And I just want to call out, if you folks decide to use this or are using this, or maybe you're using the term integrated marketing campaigns, I would highly suggest, if you're trying to create really strong alignment to your sales and CS teams, but also selfishly for you as a person, if you're trying to show your CEO or maybe it's your CMO that you're a marketer who is focused on revenue and is going to show how not only you are focused on revenue, but you understand how marketing will impact and can impact revenue, change the positioning of this to integrated revenue campaigns. If you're using marketing campaigns or integrated marketing campaigns or some other term today to describe this, and if you're not yet, just go out of the gate with integrated revenue campaigns. I can tell you firsthand when I talk to board members about this, CEOs, they love this positioning. So that's just one quick aside. Michael Ewing, hello. I'll give you access to speak up as well. So today we're going to talk about then how to structure a campaign and examples. And I got tons of examples. So, again, let's make this interactive for people who are live and challenge me in things as well. So I bring this up because, number one, we bring it up during all of our masterclasses to help us orient around what we're doing. But I truly believe that no matter if you're doing one of these different growth motions, all 7 of these growth motions, you need some type of way to actually take the goals, the targets that were probably given to you by someone. At the end of the day, it's the board and the CEO that are typically deciding and agreeing to the targets, and then they get passed down. You need some way to take those targets and bring them to life. And this integrated revenue campaign framework and structure is going to help you do that. So it's going to help you with activating your offers in this model that's content, events, free products, free tools. It's going to help you activate these people first channels, and sure, the more tactical company first channels if you want to. But yeah, of course, we're going to use those. But it's going to help you activate the channels. And if done really well, it's going to help you make sure that you don't lose sight of the partnership angle when you partner with your sales team, your other internal teams, and other partners outside your company, which you could call a channel or maybe not, but other ways you can partner to activate integrated revenue campaigns. So let's start with the why. There's kind of 4 things to break down when it comes to integrated revenue campaigns. You're trying to target the right people. You're trying to engage them with a cohesive go-to-market message. You're trying to activate and obviously close more sales and revenue. That could be new business or existing business. These campaigns should not be only thought of as a new business generating type activity. And you should measure everything. So when you break this down, starting with the audiences, and I have a different visual and actual framework to the campaign structure in a moment. But when you think about audiences, to me, ABM, and I'd love to know what you think in the chat, to me, ABM is just audience identification. Account-based marketing is saying we're going to be targeted at an account, at these people in the account, and that's it. And you can say, well, it's more than that. It's all these other things. Sure, I think the more of that then is, what is the integrated approach you're going to take to activate, sell into, expand that account? And that's where these integrated revenue campaigns come into play. Engagement is super important. So how do you actually create not only like the right messaging into the right set of accounts, to the right like programmatic audiences, developing these programs for these specific audiences, but how do you do that across, you know, the kind of halo effect that happens when you build a campaign and put it into the market? So the consistency and the repeatability in the message and at different levels of altitude is another reason why these campaigns are so helpful, because it gives you the specificity on the who. It then helps you tell and understand the story at the right level of altitude. Could be brand, could be solution, could be product, could be all three, could be more specific than those, but it's giving you a way to engage that's consistent, orchestrated. It's helping then you align and unite your different teams, because they have a way to understand what marketing is doing. One of the most important reasons to do this stuff from a campaign structure standpoint is to get your teams to understand marketing is more than, you know, arts and crafts, you know, whatever, you know, those old ways of thinking about marketing. But it's like, no, we are a not cost center. We are a profit center, if you will. Maybe not profit center, that might be a stretch, because, you know, marketing is usually the biggest expenditure in the company, but we are helping drive revenue directly. Mr. Ewing says ABM is great for seed and grow into additional buying centers. Yes, and an integrated revenue campaign can help with ABM in a very specific way. I'll show you some examples as well. I think ABM and integrated revenue campaigns go together so well. I thought marketing was just leveraging Canva templates, Jason. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's what I do most of the day, so I don't know what I'm doing. I'm doing something wrong. But at the end of the day, this should help you measure stuff. And I want to call out that on this slide, I specifically said use software attribution and self-reported attribution. If you're not using both of those today, / you're not advising customers to use both, clients, like, please use both. The chance that software attribution will capture everything is zero. I hate speaking in absolutes, but I guarantee you it is 0%, because of the way that cookies are just gone and people are using cookie blocking, ad blocking, etc. So you have to try to collect different attribution points and models in different ways. Of course, there's someone on the internet, on LinkedIn specifically, that talks a lot about this, and you know, definitely follow his advice. So any questions about the why? Like why you should do this? Anything I missed that someone wants to bring up, you think? I'll pause for a moment. You all have the ability to come off mute, by the way. You can speak. I gave you that power during today's masterclass. Okay, it looks like we're good. So why do I show this image? Because this is the most important thing. Uniting the effort. It goes back to my little soapbox around the positioning and naming of this stuff. Do not call these integrated marketing campaigns. Don't do it. Literally, you know, talk to your CRO, head of sales, CEO, say, look, I want to bring an integrated revenue campaign structure into our company. I want to create unity with our go-to-market. Here's how we're going to do it. Here's why this is going to work. I want you to help. And I want to build these campaigns with you. And we'll talk about that in a moment. Marketing should not build these on their own. If marketing builds these campaigns on their own and then just said, hey, sales and so, take a look, you're in trouble. Like, you're not going to get buy-in if you just push something and tell someone something. Include them in the process. Just like we talk about, you build a community with people, not for people. You build integrated revenue campaigns with people, not for people. And yes, I love the diversity as well. Rodney, thanks for calling that out. So again, unity. So before we get into the tactical stuff, how to do this, the examples, every campaign needs a spark. What do you think a spark is? What do you think I mean by that? Any thoughts from anyone listening? Anyone brave? No judgment here. Come off mute. Campaign spark. What do I mean? Go to the chat. Needs the aha moment. Yeah, it's kind of like that. Yeah. It needs a reason for existing. Here's an example. Are you going to do a campaign, an integrated revenue campaign about a new feature in your product? No, you're not going to. Yeah, compelling event. Michael Ewing, yes, I used to call these the trigger event for the campaign. What's the trigger event that necessitates a need for a campaign. Going back to that feature example, would you do a campaign about a new feature? No. Would you do a new campaign about a really new big product that has changed or has a new pricing and packaging model, or change your pricing and packaging model, and it's, you know, it's a very big deal? Yeah, I mean, that's the spark. Your new product is the spark. Would you do a campaign about why you're better than XYZ competitors? Maybe, because if you're losing market share, you can see that in your, you know, closed loss analysis, that you're losing not just market share, but deals to competitors. Yeah, you might want to go in and be like, here's why we're better and different, right? So there's a lot of different ways a spark can happen. It could be your big annual event. It could be a really important research report that you're launching. That's like going to be 6 months of focus on this point of view. It could be a new point of view, but like at the end of the day, Mike says it well. Jason also says it well. It needs a reason for being. You get aha, a compelling event, a trigger event. So the first thing you should do when you think about how do I create a narrative and story for my campaign, it starts with this spark. It's usually some type of offer. I just mentioned products, I just mentioned content, and I just mentioned events. Go back to the people first go to market model. Content-led, event-led, product-led. It's usually one of those three things that creates the spark. It could be something outside of that, like I mentioned with competitors, right? Or, you know, this is very self-serving. Like I wouldn't have the messaging be about this per se, but like the IPO of a company, okay. But, you know, or for example, we did something like this at HubSpot. Again, it wasn't in the campaign structure. And Mike probably remembers this. When we announced the new branding, grow better, new tagline. Okay, right? So like those are the types of things that necessitate campaigns. So 4 parts to a campaign. I got a visual coming up that outlines this a little bit better, because I think visuals are super important to help people understand this, because this is a lot of text. So you got the campaign, you got the programs, you got the offers, you got the channels. 4 parts. What's missing from this, if it's not clear, I should probably add it to the 2.0 of this presentation, is of course the targets, the goals. Like, you know, it's like, why are we doing this? Well, we have the spark, but like, you know, why are we trying to spend time and money on a campaign where you're obviously trying to generate pipeline revenue in some way? So it's you know, it's one of those two things. I mean, ultimately it's revenue, right? It is called integrated revenue campaigns for a reason. The other thing that's missing from this, and this is definitely more advanced, is a really well-structured campaign. You could break down the budget based off of programmatic level, or at the programmatic level, based off channels. You could track this budget using SaaS-based budget tracking tools that are built for marketing teams. I've used one of those in the past at Drift. You can get really good and scientific with this stuff. That's much more when you're walking and running with this. So just don't forget the goals and don't forget the budget. Yes, customer-led sparks can be really powerful and tied into a structured campaign to drive revenue. 100%, Mike. Yeah, and so programs. So programs, start there for a second. Think of those as different segments. Programs live underneath the campaign and they focus on specific target audiences. These could be personas, verticals, geos, segments that one of your like ABM tools gives you based off of signals of third party, first party, second party intent. This could be customer segments. The key to this slide, though, before I keep going, is use common language. You can change these definitions up to however you want. But when you're building these with your sales team, with your finance team, with other teams, make sure you teach people about what is an integrated revenue campaign, what does each component mean, and create that shared definition and language before you try to go off and build it and then execute it. That's another important pro tip. So programs are the audiences, definitely built in collaboration with sales, because they'll be like, hey, look, if you build this and you want to talk to sales, say like, hey, sales, like, who are you going after this quarter, or the next 6 months, or this year? Like if you don't do that, if you don't just do that step, you missed the point, right? You missed it. Going up to campaign is what programs, offers, channels sit under. And typically in a bigger company, say you have 10 or less marketing people, you probably have one campaign, maybe two. 5 to 10, you could have maybe two. 5 or less, you have one campaign going on at once. And these campaigns happen 90 days, every 180 days. That's the cycle, 3 to 6 months. 10 plus people, you might have more than two. 20, 30 people plus, you could have three. I've seen 3 pretty common. Once you go past like, 3, you're usually, because you're going to have a lot of work to pull off 3 campaigns. You're usually talking like regional, like so geo campaigns, potentially different language campaigns. Like you don't want to have like dozens of campaigns. You don't want to have probably more than 5. I mean, 5 is a lot because each of these campaigns could have 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 segments in the campaign. So I think the max is 5. I think the sweet spot's 2 to 3 for the number of campaigns, because these campaigns are stories. They are stories that you're bringing to life, specifically the problems, the solutions, the premise, the point of view that's coming out, and you adapt those campaign level narratives to the specific audiences that are activated as part of these programs. So then each program has offers and channels. And I think you folks get what those are. So to bring this to life from a visual standpoint, here's how you can think about it. You have a campaign, right? So you can have just really simple, the first half 2024 campaign, really bad name, not inspiring. We can talk about some examples in a second. And then you have a campaign program, which is the general campaign for everyone and everything. It's the halo effect. And then you could have one targeted program, or you could have 3 or 4 or 5 targeted programs. And depending on which audience you're going after, you might have slightly different offers. You might position those different offers differently. You might activate different channels for different audiences, for different, programs. So at a high level, this is one way to visualize it. I've seen this visual be manipulated in a few different ways. Make it your own. Make it what makes sense to how your business is done today. This is not by any means saying you have to follow this approach, but you need a way to visualize it for people. And what also is very interesting is when you visualize it, you can start to plug and play different things into it, like the size of the program in terms of number of accounts and number of buyers we're going after, the number of offers, the list of offers, the channels, the budget, the goals. And then you could wrap up all of those goals for each program in the campaign into your overall pipeline / revenue goal for that campaign. Interesting approach, right? So here's another way to think about it, right? You program 1, you program 2, you program 3, you have all these different channels, right? There's a few different ways you could visualize this. There's probably more than a few. Before I move on, any questions? I'm throwing a lot at you folks quickly, I feel like. I do tend to talk somewhat fast. But I don't see any major questions coming through. But yeah, Jackie, Jason, Mike, Rodney, any questions, any thoughts? Pretty straightforward. I'm glad to hear that. That's good. That's good. All right. So another way to think about campaigns is this. I did a post about this. If you have not seen this post, the link is at the bottom. You'll get, of course, the slides will be posted soon. I can send you the slides in a second. It's in the daily People First GTM tip channel I have, right? My daily tips. So how does this break down from a marketing team kind of structure standpoint? Why? That's a theme and story. Every campaign needs a theme and story. Product marketing and brand typically create that. And the CMO is typically very involved. Then you have the programs. That's typically defined by RevOps, ABM. Don't forget sales, right? Demand gen. Like it's sometimes one of the companies that we're working with, the CMO, CRO are talking about audience definition. The best way to do this too is like take the financial plan you have and say, all right, here's how the financial plan is segmented. Let's start there. And then how do we get more granular from the financial plan? And what are the goals for revenue from the financial plan? And how do we make sure our campaign structure is set up in a way to support those financial plan goals? And that's where you start to get into budget, goals, cascading all the way down. And then there's the offers and channels. What I see most marketing teams do, though, still, is they talk about channels and offers, and they don't talk about programs and the theme and the story, which is like, or they don't connect all of them together. So this is, again, uniting your marketing team, but uniting your go-to-market teams with this structure. So it looks like Mike really likes this slide. Let me know if you have any questions about this, because this is important. That's why I made the visual on this whiteboard that I always have right here. It's blank right now. But yeah, I think visualizing this is super important. And again, you can change this to however makes sense for your organization. All right. So let's talk about executing this. This is not easy stuff. I will be frank. I mean, I make it sound maybe easy, but like, even with 5 people, it's going to take some serious coordination and execution to make this work well. First, you got to teach people before you even get to week 1. When I went into Air Meet, my last job before I started TACK, and we did integrated revenue campaigns. This is an example of one of the slides, by the way, we did. We created to help get the team aligned and to help sales understand what we're doing. I had to educate the team on this for like a month or 2. No exaggeration. You have to get people to understand it. You have to get people to buy into it. You need to get people to start doing it. Right? It's like study the system, study the system, understand the system, change the system. I had to study what was going on. I had to help people understand what needed to be changed, and then you have to go do it. So the change has to happen. So this is just an example of how you can think about like what has to happen in different week intervals. So here's what the other crazy thing about integrated revenue campaigns, but this is why marketing is so hard. You need to be executing campaigns in the quarter, and then almost typically at the same time planning the next quarter's campaigns. And that's why I like to get started with smaller teams and teams who are less experienced with this. Run them for 6 months. Don't try to change stuff every 3 months. I'd say though, in the beginning, it might be useful to do one campaign, try it for 3 months, learn a lot, iterate, right? Like it's like ship it, learn, ship it again type mentality. I have seen that work where, you do it for 3 months, you iterate. And then once you find your groove after the second or third time, you can kind of keep it going for 6 months. This is also determined based off of how good your product roadmap is and how well organized your rest of the go-to-market is. Meaning, have you found product market fit? And arguably, do you even want to do an integrated revenue campaign pre-market fit? I think yes. I still think you can. If you are super pre-product market fit, then no, probably not. But like, pre-product market fit's fine. But if you found product market fit, this is the time to do this, because this is how you hopefully get to repeatable go-to-market motions, aka go-to-market fit. And you can say, well, as we do these campaigns, we can start to really have a line of sight into what we can expect from our marketing and sales function in terms of number of meetings per quarter, and those number of meetings translate into this much revenue per quarter, and you can get a little bit more predictable with these things. With all that being said, you have to then typically execute in quarter and plan in quarter. So you're going to want to just remind yourself of that and balance that out. And this is where marketing leadership is so important. Any questions about this?
I do have a quick question.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back.
So where do you bring in sales? I mean, it looks like week 2 and week 3. And then bigger question, is it like a sales committee? So it's a little bit from everybody? Is it just like the SVPs? Or what have you found that kind of works best? Because I'm big on bringing on sales, but the feeling isn't always mutual.
Yeah, so the first thing I did is I had to educate sales about this before I even started to like think about executing it. So
Okay.
yeah, I sat down with the CRO, both companies. I remember having many sales and marketing leadership meetings about this stuff. RevOps was involved. So that's all like week 0, like negative weeks, And then for the actual sales stuff, week 1 is really important. And in some companies that might take 3 weeks, right? Hopefully it doesn't take too long, but week 1 critical because it's the audience and goal alignment. And it's also campaign messaging, because you want to basically get from sales that they are feeling like they are helping build the messaging, because they're going to think, well, I know how to do messaging. I'm doing outbound. I know what's
right.
blah, blah, blah. So, there's that. And then I'd say week 2 and 3 a little bit to kind of give them a sneak peek. Skip week 4 and 5, week 6 and 7 a little bit. That's more where leadership comes back into play a little bit. And then the V2 Mom is how we do annual planning. It's just a planning framework. And, I don't know. Again, I would keep that at the leadership level.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Great question. Yeah, I know. Thank you for asking. That's a great question. If there's any other questions, let me know in the chat. I can go back. So here's a way to think about activating campaigns from a programmatic audience standpoint. Arguably, the two most important things, goals, sure, goals, but then it's like, what's the story and narrative, and what are the programmatic audiences? So this is how we thought about it, right? You have different ICPs. Within those ICPs, we said, okay, look, we have target accounts. And this is, by the way, coming from 6 Sense. It's not perfect. I would blend some of your own data into this, but again, depending on how sophisticated you are with your ABM, target accounts, here are the accounts that are in the awareness stage, consideration stage, decision, and purchase. So you might even set up your programmatic campaign as our audiences as part of a campaign using this. We're going to, awareness, that's going to be taken care at the campaign level. We're not going to do any specific targeting on that. But we're going to target the 906 and the 176 in a different motion. And the people that are in purchase, we're doing a whole different motion. So that's a different programmatic audience as part of the campaign structure. So there's one example of how to think about slicing and dicing the actual audiences for these campaigns. Okay, so some examples. So we're actually working on this campaign right now with Swoogo. TACK customer, loves Swoogo. Shout out to the team over there. We started working with them on campaigns back in October. And we're also doing some great things in terms of weekly pacing. You should pace against all of your goals on a weekly basis. There's a great template inside of ClubPF for this. But Event Different is a signature kind of virtual 90-minute online event that's happening the 21st. But that wasn't the spark. The spark of this campaign was this event maturity model that we've been developing for 4 months. I actually, ironically, did a LinkedIn post about this today. I'm the host of this. And the primary offer is this virtual event. I didn't list out the channels because I want to ask you folks, you can just dump it in the chat. What channels do you think Swoogo is going to do to activate this campaign? I also didn't call something else out. So I wanted to ask you in the chat, if you're paying attention, and if you're listening to the recording, drop it in your notebook. What's missing that's critical? And what channels would you think Swoogo activates as part of this campaign, which the Event Different virtual event is kind of the cornerstone offer. A lot of campaigns have a cornerstone offer that is also like the kind of forcing function to create kind of gravitational pull around the other offers you might do. What's missing though? Let's see if you guys are paying attention. What's missing? Oh, come on. Someone's got to share what's missing. This is the layup. No one's going to share what's missing. Programmatic audiences. The audiences. Who are the programs that we're trying to activate, right? That's definitely missing. And I mean, the channels, I was hoping someone would chime in. I mean, channels for this. By the way, I mean, channels, just quick aside here. Channel definition is something that you really need to align on, especially with your ops team and in the marketing team, because I've heard people say like content is a channel. I'm like, no. I don't think content is a channel. Some companies think it is. I've heard people think of landing pages literally as a channel, or at least that's how they have it defined in their ops systems. Like, that's not a channel. It's a website page. And there's usually an offer to go behind that landing page, probably. A demo is an offer. Like, it's a sales kind of first offer. It's a sales-led offer. It's a demo. Unless you have an interactive demo, which is a different type of, and you could say, well, that's a bottom of the funnel offer, right? So I'm saying all this, I'm illustrating the channel piece because every company's going to have different definitions on these things. And the most important thing, I'm going to say it again, is to align on definitions. So that's one of the things that we're working with Swoogo on is definition alignment and understanding how to speak the same language when it comes to campaigns. So important. Another example is the MQL is dead. This was a massively successful campaign, drove tens of millions in revenue, We kept this campaign going for a long time, and then we took the primary offer in the campaign, which is the MQL is dead, and used that in a lot of other campaigns post this campaign narrative, and we then turned the MQL is dead into other smaller bite-sized pieces of content. So this was one of the first big things I did at Drift, in fact, when I joined in like Jan 2019. And I co-authored this book. And this is like the manifesto, if you will, of how conversations are changing the marketing funnel. And ironically, if you think about this now from like a chat GPT standpoint, could it be more true? Conversations are changing a lot of what we do now with technology. So the point here, though, is we wanted to be very provocative. We wanted to have a spark. The spark was this point of view. It wasn't the book. The book's the primary offer. We activated the book in many different ways. So for one example that we did with this campaign is we sent targeted accounts a postcard that showed them their landing page, one of their landing page forms on their postcard. And how did it said something like, did you know, like, and we said this to like the high ups in the marketing team, did you know that, your landing page has 8 fields and they're all required, and with Drift you can book a meeting with a click of a button, right? So it's basically playing off the fact that, the MQL is dead because you can just help people book a meeting with one click of a button, right? Drop of an email. So anyway, like, I'm not probably saying that exactly the way we did it, but I remember there was a physical component to this that we did a presentation deck that then we went and spoke, mostly this pre-COVID, mostly in person, some online stuff about the MQL is dead. Huge activation around this. Sorry, I don't know why I go back there. Huge activation around this. So yeah, those are 2 quick examples of like how we brought these things to life. Another great example, I'm going to stop sharing just for a moment, is who's seen the Nevada campaign recently? Or who has seen the Mutiny campaign? MUTINY. Anyone seen Mutiny or Nevada? 2 great companies. Nevada did an interactive product demo campaign. In fact, I'm going to ad hoc this. Hold on one sec. Let's see. Uh-oh. See if I can do this really quick. So this is actually for something I'm doing next week with Hoobalo. I just recorded this video. By the way, I'm sick of slides, so I'm using white paper now. You guys like my white paper? I'm sick of slides. So Nevada State of Interactive Demo Report. Sorry if that's a little hard to read. They activated this through an advisory board. So this is a different framework. This is like teach, don't tell me framework, but they use an integrated revenue campaign approach. So they had a spark. Their advisory board was a huge piece of the people behind this. They talked about these specific problems. They brought stories to life using data, and they had all these examples about what a good product demo looks like. And they activated that campaign through a slew of different channels. The offer was this. They had a few other like mini micro offers, but it was mostly just download this, check out this report. And I don't know how targeted they got with it because I wasn't behind the scenes. But what I can tell you was it was a very on-message integrated approach that was very people first. And that's why I brought that up. It was led by people. I'm on their advisory board, which is a group of people that are or have been their ideal buyers. And they brought to life that whole thing. Natalie over there did that through a very integrated approach. And she's, I believe, a two-person marketing team. So only 2 full-time people with some contractors and freelancers. So focused, very consistent. She's now putting a lot of her next few months behind that. But it doesn't matter, how big you are, how small you are, you can do this. No worries, Roddy. We're actually basically done. It was about a 40-minute presentation. I think I almost nailed the timing there. If there's any other questions, let me know. Happy to talk about this ad nauseum. But this was just a primer. There'll be more on this. I'm hopefully building a big kind of guide and some other content to this. But yeah, if you guys have any other questions who are still here, just let me know. You can come off mute. Thanks, Jason. All right, I'm going to pause the recording and shut that down. But if anyone wants to stick around, let me know. Thanks again for tuning into another masterclass.